Thank you all for joining us as this wonderful session. And I must tell you the reason as to why we are doing this. And I must thank Hugh for this. I don't know whether Hugh remembers this. Since 2023, I've been talking to, I think, most of you, except maybe Issa, but all the others, I've been having very regular interactions. The last one was with Cyrus in his office last Wednesday. I remember talking to Hugh, and we had a plan to bring all the previous Lifetime Achievement Award winners onto the stage, and the purpose was to bring all of them at the 40th anniversary of Stat Trade Times. Were 14 of them, but we managed to get 5 of them. We're supposed to have Larry Cohen. I think he's on the plane right now because he missed the 2 flights in Dubai. So we will see him in the evening. So the conversation a few years back with Hugh was, Hugh had suggested that why don't we get these voices on a stage, maybe Air Cargo India or Air Cargo Africa. And that was the beginning of this plan to have all these voices on the stage. I like to spend the next few minutes going across to all of you to just reflect on the most powerful lessons from your life in aviation, air cargo, insights that you would like to tell the people inside the audience and inspire them, because you have seen different aspects of the growth of aviation over the last few decades. Do I start with Issa?
Thank you, Reji, for the introduction and also for organizing this session of the, I would say, the heroes of the last century. It is indeed a pleasure to come back and meet a lot of good friends over the years. You will be hearing some of the things repeated from the last session. Research shows that you have to hear at least 3 times before you remember what has been stated. So that's important. Let me go back many moons ago when I was a young freight forwarder who thought that air cargo was the center of the logistics universe. I quickly learned something humbling, and here I'll give you a couple of pillars of air cargo so we always remind ourselves that air cargo is most powerful. Air cargo is fast, and air cargo is impressive. Those pillars will stand any time of the year. But air cargo is not alone. This is very important. Logistics rests on 5 assets: rail, road, maritime, of course, aviation on itself. There's so many facets, and inland waterways. They are all connected one way or the other. For years, I argued that professionals should understand all 5, even if they specialize in one. At that time, some thought that it was idealistic. Then came e-commerce. Now, algorithms decide which combination of modes moves the shipment. Not emotion, not tradition, not habit, not just speed or cost, carbon footprint, delivery promise. The system optimizes it all. So here is my summary for the next generation. Be a specialist in air cargo, but be a generalist in multimodal logistics. Follow your heart, but take your brain with you. Because if you only understand the aircraft and not supply chains, you will eventually be optimized out of the conversation. So, Reggie, you gave me 3 minutes. I wrapped it up, and I hope you like that.
That's on-time performance. Ram, your LinkedIn profile, which I remember interviewing you in Chicago, India, a few kilometers away at Goregaon Exhibition Center. And the tagline on your LinkedIn profile is, I'm retired and I'm enjoying it. And last night you said you're going to revise it. I'm still enjoying it.
You talked about Gen Z and millennials and etc. You are actually looking at the baby boomers. It's a few generations going behind. And it's also good to hear from my professor friend, from a forwarder to a professor. Those were really good words of pearls of wisdom. To me, I was very fortunate to have been where I was. I'm still retired and still enjoying it, and I continue to enjoy that. But that doesn't mean that you can take the air cargo or that's wrong. Transportation or cargo as a whole out of your blood. So one of the advantages that I had was to start a green sheet airline or infrastructure in Dubai, which there was none when you look at it. Issa and I were very much involved in creating that infrastructure that started building, that were the building blocks of a bigger infrastructure. To us, when we started the airline, we had virtually nothing. And part of the thing that I did right from the start, I started getting a team together who were smarter than me. But they were not very confident of what they were. So I had to just take them out, shake them loose as a right. And once they were up to it, I was very much blessed with this brilliant team, and who started then getting the customers together. Now, being in Dubai, we were completely in an open skies environment, and we realized that open skies is actually a good thing. And then we were also great believers of the fact that if you catalyze and if you open the floodgates, you have to be ready to handle the water, otherwise it destroys you. So when we looked around us, so we started creating a network. We were a very, very small airline. We created a network of partners. We were punching about our weight. At the same time, we said, right, once we open the floodgate, then what? So we had to open and make sure the others, the competitors, brought in their capacity so that they could handle the water, not us, because we just couldn't have done it ourselves. So it was a question of partners coming in there. So what we were doing at that stage, we dared. We dared to actually bring the competition in to help us grow. And what we were trying, and we also realized by doing that, you are actually helping the industry and you are creating a new market. Now, we then over the years, we started looking at it and we started working with the airports, the economic department, everyone else, air cargo, and also the passengers. They depend on freight. We started building an industry around the airport. And this is where, when Dr. John Quesada was coming out with the Aerotropolis concept, we helped him also build that concept. And we were already creating that. We started creating this airport free zone where lots of industries are coming in. Then we went into the ports authorities. I mean, we started working together with them. So we started having a chain of partners. While everybody was focusing on competitors, we never focused on competitors. We actually used them to leverage our growth, where our focus was customers. And we treated the big customers as they were, very important. But to us, the most critical part was the small customers like us, who were small, and grow together with them. It's the small customers that actually tend to grow rather than the big ones. And that therein brings the loyalty. So we were working together with them. And then again, forwarders were our main customers. The forwarders were like the magic eye painting. You need to look at a magic. How many of you know magic eye painting? Because, yeah, there you are, Glenn. The picture that you see is not the picture. The picture is behind that picture. And who are the picture behind the forwarders? It's the shippers. So we started having communications with them. But it was a forwarding community that we were servicing. But the actual picture, what were we servicing, is the needs of the end customers. We spent a lot of time and energy trying to build products and tailor it individually to grow our business. But to us, it was not just the airline that had to grow. We were ahead of technology. We knew what the technology was, where it could lead us. So we never looked at the past. We said, what can happen in the future? And that was the basis of what we were building our product on. And so we leveraged technology, the future technology, which was scalable. So we were building foundation. And we built a very solid foundation which could be scaled upwards. And hopefully, Badr and his team and several others who are now taking Emirates to the next level. But it was just not Emirates. For us, it was important that we, as we were leading the industry, that we were not out there catching a cold on our own. So we needed the industry to be along with us. And we spent a lot of time, everything that we built was available to the industry so that they could actually push us. We worked with the customs, we worked with all entities of the supply chain, and this is where when we were building Tiaka, and Tiaka was very, very instrumental in doing that, and so was IATA. Glenn will remember, we tried to change the mindset of IATA, and a lot of the freight forwarding industry here will remember the painful days that we actually spent trying to mend the bridges. So it was just not what we were doing at the airline, it was also what we were doing for the industry. And it was a collective effort that was going behind the growth of our airline, and it became what it became. And a lot of people, we used to call us a hobby airline, and sure enough, it was a good hobby. And we became what we became. So thanks to all my team that who made this possible, and thanks to all the partners. And I'm talking about competitors who have, we partnered with them more than competed with them. And most of all, it was the customers who were driving our products. So thank you to everybody.
Thanks, Ram. I take building for the industry and punching above your weight. Vandana ma'am, you've been several keynotes in our conferences, and punching above your weight was how you exhorted the community, the air cargo community. Why are you punching below your weight? And excitedly, 6 years ago on this day at Air Cargo India at the Grand Hyatt, you did the keynote. And that was really the vertical takeoff for you in terms of your involvement in the cargo, because that was the beginning of pandemic. Your thoughts?
So I'm going to take a leaf from where you left off, where weights are concerned. Yes, Air Cargo India punches way below its weight. And at the end of my journey with y'all, which started in 2017 and where we are today, I have gained weight. I'm waiting for air cargo to become 10 million tons. So that's when we're talking about weight. But no, more seriously, I would put my thoughts in 3 buckets, literally. One is that when I came into air cargo, my first thought was change is the essence of existence, and transformation, change, whatever word you want to use, that has to be brought in. But in order to do that, that is the ground running, as you may call it, I saw 3 chasms between government and industry. The first was the knowledge gap. Obviously, all of you knew far more than what the government or the regulator did. The second was a gap or a chasm of trust. What do I mean by that? We used to feel that there are vested interests that reach out to government for their purpose, and not so much as a holistic industry, which is less transactional, therefore, in their own interests, but more to do with setting an ecosystem which will serve the test of time. And the third chasm was, if I can say it, in terms of how those goals should be reached, the implementation of whatever is the regulatory regime. Um, there, the government was lacking. Industry wanted government to be faster than what it was. And I think we tried to run, whether it was through the trade facilitation agreement at a very generic level or through other specific measures in order to bridge that chasm as well. So, my first uh, mantra to everybody who's younger than me is that change is eternal. Do not fear it. Run with the change. The second is that where there is nothing, there is a complete vacuum. The grass is not there, it's a desert. Build. Do not fear a vacuum. Find out what greenfield initiatives can be taken up. And aviation finance was a complete vacuum in India. All the money was, whether for buying our aircraft, for buying our equipment, including containers, the money for building airports, any infrastructure was coming from outside. And my feeling was at that time, when I looked at it, I said, where there's no money, we don't have skin in the game. India is going to continue to punch below its weight until the money begins to ride. And when money comes, we are uh, assessing the risks and the rewards, the return, the EBITDA, the bottom line, the top line, everything that the business really looks at. And that's when we started the Gift City initiative. It was called Rupee Raftar because we needed to give Rupee the aviation heft or the takeoff. And we started with the airlines, in a sense, first, because they were the ones who were doing the roller coaster, the losses and the gains. We had airlines coming up and collapsing. And without the airline, we did not have the belly cargo capacity. So for me, having airlines which were really very good and our entire air cargo community could rely on was also vital. So while Air India, Indigo, Akasa, and the other airlines plugged up their capacity and are very nicely utilizing a green field offshore, yet in India, platform which is called the International Financial Services Center in the Gift City. They have now done aircraft and other asset leases of nearly 370 products. And I want to share with you something which is very, very heartwarming, and that is that when we created the IFSC system in India, we were competing with the Dublins and the Singapores and the Tianjins of China, etc. London, the big hubs for money, insurance, finance. Yesterday at an airline economics conference where I was told that people are building copycat IFSCs to India's. Even Singapore is asking industry, tell us what you want that we can give you what India gives you at Gift City. That is where your greenfield initiatives, if taken in the proper spirit, with proper intent, and I can only say that till you plan properly, till you plan for resilience, till you plan for growth, till you plan by dotting every I and crossing every T, you will not get there. So don't fear the deserts, that this is not an airport I can pick cargo from. I can only go to the metros, I can only go to this one. Don't fear them. The final thought, third thought, is the future, the vision. Where do you draw your vision? You can never rest on your laurels. And in order to draw your vision, you must go by what a great philosopher, Socrates, said long back: an unexamined life is not worth living. Please examine your business. Please examine where your vision is 20 years later and strive for it. The gods will stand with you and give it to you. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. An unreflected life is not worth living. That's a nice sentence. Hugh, what are your thoughts?
I think first of all, I'd like to just say it's an absolute privilege and pleasure to be here today. And obviously I'll speak more from an cargo airline operation perspective on a very short introduction, and we'll pick up some of the other points later. But my background is really, I was trained as a pilot back in the South African Air Force in the early 1970s. I then became a commercial pilot and then went into a company called SAF Air, and which operated the world's largest fleet of commercial Lockheed Hercules airplanes, which gave me entree to the global aviation market, especially on the cargo side. And traveled a lot and ended up in the 1980s running a small subsidiary company in New York, in the United States, for 3 years. And so life was good. I was having a lot of fun with cargo. And then I was part of a party for the due diligence in acquiring an Irish airline, cargo airline, to serve DHL in Europe. And that was really exciting, and I thought. And so we went about working with our customer DHL. We also looked at the AOC, which was an Irish AOC under the Irish Aviation Authority. And the fleet consisted of 6 Boeing 727-200 freighter aircraft. And that's when it got really exciting, because in 2000 and some early 2000s, the European Union passed legislation on emissions and on noise, which disqualified our 6 airplanes. So as I say, things got really exciting. From that, our derivative was simply, you've got to expand or just fall off the edge of the earth, expand, or really get stuck into development, to engender development in our business in Europe. And what we did was 2 things. We went about acquisitions and then the organic growth in some of the businesses that follow on there, which I'll talk about a little bit later.
Thanks, Hugh. Cyrus.
So Reji told me that he has a stopwatch and he's given us each 3 minutes. So Reji, I'm going to try and stay within 3 minutes because my entire life has been governed by metrics and getting there on time. But the challenge you've given me is very formidable because I joined my business as an air freight forwarder in 1968. So if I have to look back over 57 years in 3 minutes, it's quite a challenge. So let me just stay with some. Uh, let me stay on a fairly high level to say what I observed. You've asked for what are our reflections and what are our insights. So if I reflect on the last 3 decades, it's interesting to see that when we started, we were in a situation in this country which you can't even imagine today. We had obviously no computers, we had no mobile phones, you had no direct dialing for long distances. Any circulars in your office had to be done on cyclostyling machines. You know the whole story if you were old enough, as I am, to remember those early days.
I remember. I'm
So-
old.
So then you look at where we are today, and the country and the working environment is unrecognizably different. So what happened in those 3 decades if I look at the whole world of air cargo transportation? I see 3 levels. When we started in 68, the way to get a document or a package across the world with acknowledgement due was to use the registered AD postal system. So that was a slow, unreliable system waiting to be disrupted. Then the next level was air cargo agents, and that's where I joined as an air freight forwarder. But you know that product was not a value-added product. It was airport to airport. There was complexity in documentation, and you got the customer at the origin and you got the consignee at the destination to an awful lot of work with customs and pickup and delivery. And so the third level, which I spent most of my time in, was when DHL approached our organization in roughly 1977 and said, shall we, my company's name, by the way, was Air Freight Limited. And they said, look, we don't exactly like this name because we want to offer a more value-added product. And you know, that led to my ultimately changing the company's name to AFL to disguise what we were really doing earlier on. At that point, there were only 2 missions that guided DHL. And interestingly, those 2 principles have remained constant over the last 30 or 40 years. They tried to understand what are our air cargo customers looking for, what are their pain points, and how do we address them. And what they came to the conclusion was that customers need speed and customers need simplicity. So the whole effort over those last years has been how to get cargo from A to B across the world, and it was an international service, in the fastest possible way. And so the target for that particular principle was, can we get from India to Dubai, New York, Hong Kong next day? And with that, acknowledgement due. So that was, in a way, the target that we pursued for our first few years. And the next was, if you want to simplify life, well, you have to give the customer a single document at a single rate. And that required us to be able to control the movement of the shipment from origin to destination, through pickup, through line haul, through customs to delivery. And if I look at those last 15 years, that was achieved in a spectacular way. And why was it achieved? Because we were lucky at that time to be in an India where there was considerable economic growth, bar the South Asian financial crisis, the Southeast Asian, and the dot-com problem. Otherwise, we had uninterrupted but steady economic growth and the constant improvement of technology. So now if we look at where we are, we had mobile phones, we had email, we had automated exchanges which allowed you to set up call centers. Even call centers now are partly automated with chatbots, and a huge amount of technology to optimize your pickup and delivery routing. So, long story short, what were the lessons and what were the insights? that, and I agree with Vandana madam, you see change, you've got to grasp the change, and the change for us came through technology. So just adopt every new piece of technology that you can, and that required the second issue, which is you have to invest. So we did a lot of capital. And the third was, if you've got to grasp technology and invest capital, you need people to run your business. And so this constant effort to upskill people. And I think if I look today at Swiggy or Zomato or Amazon in particular, they followed the same trajectory, except that more or less where they are today, we were 15 years ago.
Something that I want to mention here, and we also learned that very, very quickly, that air cargo actually benefits from all kinds of crises except the economic crisis. Trade is like water, it flows. It's a question of adapting to where the flow is going to be and catering to that. But remember one thing, don't cry when the chips are down or look at it as challenge, because challenges are opportunities.
Okay, Ram, stay on. You retired in 2013, and ever since that, you are not disconnected from the industry, but you're very well connected in the industry as to what was actually happening. You are aware of what is going on within the industry. Maybe if you could share some of the pivotal strategic decisions that you were involved in, maybe like including the aircraft design, 777 freighter, your involvement in some of those strategic decisions, which could actually probably help the people inside the room. If you can share maybe one or two specific instances.
Yeah, again, I was very fortunate that I was able to work with airplane manufacturers, and I think, I mean, I have left a little bit of DNA on the 777 airplane, the freighters, the 380s, and also after having retired, I've been involved in a project called Nautilus. We were looking at bringing in the future freighters. Because that's very important. And the future freighters are one of the visions that we always had, and Boeing had a little group of people who sit together, is looking at finding a flying truck. And that's how, when the Nautilus project came up, and we did create the basic plans for a flying truck, where no contouring of cargo on an airplane, and just optimize space. And by optimizing space, also take into the sustainability into consideration. The blended wing technology that we actually started designing will probably add fuel savings. I think it's for 30 to 40% on what it is today. So after having retired, I was able to get into a few projects where we could start looking at what the future is going to look like. Because for ASL and everybody else, this whole sustainability factor is going to drive the requirement for a whole new generation of efficient airplane. It's not just the airplane, but it's going to be ships, as well as automobile industry is already quite ahead of it. The electric airplanes, battery operated airplanes, I mean, I look at it, but that has got a limitation, and the limitation is the size of the battery that it can carry. But in the trucking, the surface transportation, I came across a company which actually extends the range of the battery by having a methanol driven fuel cell engine. And methanol, as you know, is a zero emission. So I'm hoping that the aviation industry will pick it up. People like you, Hugh, I mean, you have influence. Take a look at it. Methanol driven fuel cells that can continuously recharge the battery while the airplane is flying. It's called a range extender. You can extend the range of an existing electric airplane, also reduce the weight of the batteries that you carry. And that is I think it's going to be the future of the aviation industry. So I'm doing what I can to contribute towards that.
Ma'am, I want to take you back to 2020 March, when the entire world came to a standstill and everything was shut. And that was when the air freight industry was challenged, and that you stepped in, and we saw how fruits, vegetables, other PPE materials, everything traveled in the passenger cabins. So there was, at that period, there was no knowledge gap, there was no trust deficit, and there was no question of lack of implementation. All the three gaps were filled in those period. Tell us some of the highlight moments of how you dealt with those challenging times, how these three gaps were filled in with no problems.
So we started filling in those gaps earlier, and I mentioned the gaps, but I want to say that all three gaps began to be filled in when we brought in one, the first national air cargo policy, which was not just a document that got conjured up. It came into existence with the solid efforts of different members of the value chain or the supply chain that we have in air cargo. And that included the airlines. So I would have representatives from Air India, from Indigo, from the freighter airline, Blue Dart Aviation. I would have the airport representative, Sanjeev Edward, Ramesh Mamidala was then at Chelabi, Tushar Jani, the others from Bombay would fly in. I had the freight forwarding community, Samir Shah, Ramesh Ramakrishna ji, and I would have CHAs, Sunil Arora, all of them. I mean, I'm not taking names, just if I miss some names, please do forgive me. I used to consult Rajesh Singh and his team from SpiceJet, for instance. He's also sitting there. I consulted everybody, and I consulted academicians, the international community. I used to bother Glyn Hughes at night. I would call him up. Glyn, I need your understanding of this matter from an international perspective and how we can dovetail it in India. Send me written inputs by tomorrow, 5 a.m. And, I don't know how much he beavered and how much the others. On technology, Kale Logistics, Hans Informatics, Amar More, I don't know whether he's here. I know he's at the conference. They all wrote that policy. We put it together, and I think that's what strengthened the base for handling the crisis that came subsequently. So it was 3 years of hard work, which paid when the crisis struck. And I remember this very well, that when the first one day lockdown, Jan lockdown was announced in March, and I thought to myself, this is government trying to see whether Indians will behave or not, and what are the challenges that come up. That night, when everything went successful, I called up Samisha, I called up Sanjeev Edward and others, and I said, get your act together. We're getting a lockdown. The only things that will be viable will be air trucks, because they are the only ones which will safeguard us, not have too many people-to-people contact as compared to the other modes of transport. And we will need to give supplies, everything, toothbrush, milk, cheese, butter, shampoo, to all the people sitting in remote villages. And that's where the journey started. We developed SOPs. Where's Keiko? He was my friend, partner in crime in this entire exercise. And no story is complete, at least from my side, until I say how much I valued the knowledge also. So I just wanted to say that whomsoever I called at midnight, they woke up, they said, we're ready. Tell us what to do. We're ready. I was told, I said, this has to be done with this kind of regulatory assurance, no touch, etc. How can we ensure it? Industry gave the solutions. So that was the biggest part. The huge, huge India with 6 lakh villages, not a single murmur came to us that we didn't get emergency supplies, we didn't get liquid milk, we didn't get bread, we didn't get atta, we didn't get anything. I mean, to my knowledge, nothing reached me. And that was because you, the air cargo fraternity, worked like trucks on the road, but only you were flying by air. You were united in one common purpose, which was to serve and deliver that cargo. You had no other agenda. You did not have any other interest. What's coming to my pocket, what's not. You said, this is a crisis, I'm going to serve it. My pockets will get filled later. So that part is the strongest part. Then the vaccine movement. Every day we moved vaccines by air to not just all parts of India in a time framework of 24 hours from the 2 factory gates, one in Hyderabad and one in Pune, to all of India. 29,000 locations were served vaccines within 24 hours every day. It's a phenomenal exercise, and this was multimodally done because airport to airport you did. One final word on that, which was the international community that we served. I mean, it's a shocking thing to say, but a lot of the vaccines were cornered by those countries who could afford it. And so we used to have calls from small countries with populations of 70,000 people or just 1 million or 2 million, telling us that when we asked, when can we receive vaccines, we were told 2 years later. And that's when we decided the vaccine Maitri, and to 155 countries, your country delivered vaccines within 48 hours, because that's how the packaging was done in dry ice. Some places we couldn't use dry ice because the planes were too small and we were hopping from island to island, and the gate of the aircraft could not take the packed cargo. I can relate so many stories which are so motivating. How we even stopped a cargo plane taking off because they had pushed through the carton through a small gate, the small door of the plane, but it damaged it. We stopped that aircraft from taking off, took it out, repacked, got fresh consignment, and then sent it. That's how well we delivered. And timelines, you like metrics? From door to delivery, from aircraft touchdown to delivery, we achieved 9 minutes on average every day for the entire period of vaccine movement, which was more than 6 months across all our airports. So that's what you can do. I have related these numbers earlier as well. If you could do it in crisis, and a crisis which was long-lasting, you can do that as a daily exercise, assuming you are in crisis mode. If India works best in crisis, then please assume you are always in a crisis.
Yeah,
Work ahead.
I think don't wait for a crisis to be creative. So consider every day as a crisis and be creative. Hugh, want to come back to you. 22 years as CEO, your aircraft fly around all continents, consistently profitable despite economic volatility. What key leadership lessons and decisions or strategies do you believe that most critical in sustaining that kind of growth level you have an ongoing partnership here in India with Quikjet. Some of the leadership lessons that you could share with the audience here.
Thanks, Reji. I think some of the issues there, I'll mention perhaps a couple of them. And it's really about reinforcing the development, as I say, from the kick in the head we got with the 727s. With the management team and also with our shareholders, it was important to say, we came up with a little saying, which is, we cannot get to where we want to be by staying where we are. And I say with the management, because you sit down with management and you say to the operations guy or the engineering guy, listen, we've got to go this way, and it's always the problem. And I think I take what you said earlier. Live like it's a crisis all the time, because it gets people really moving. And I think that was a key word that we still keep alive in the organization. The second thing is vitally important to communicate. You cannot communicate enough in an organization like that. And I think the key there is also don't only talk to people when you've got a problem or if you want something. And that's hard. You've really got to keep that continuity going with your customers, with your providers, your suppliers, so that you are able to operate optimally in the field. And the third point I'd mention is never give up, never surrender. And I think, Graham, that's what you were talking about. Never give up. Keep attacking. And I remember, going to the Irish Aviation Authority as we were struggling to build the business. And I quote the CEO of the IAA, Eamon Brennan then, and Eamon said, this is more recently, he said to me, when you used to come in here with 7 different aircraft you were operating, F-27s and Shorts 360s and 727s, I used to want to run away from you. He says, today, I want to run towards you. So it was kind of a reward, in the sense that, we've got it. So just turning and looking at, we've been talking a little bit about, or I've been talking about then, and if we talk about now, the customers we have, apart from the DHL, which has stuck with us through the years, and I'll talk about fleet just now, FedEx has become a major customer of ours, Amazon a major customer of ours in Europe and here in India, UPS, and then a myriad of different providers in China, the United States, and all over the world with our long-haul fleet. And I'm saying this really to our good friends at EK. Don't forget us. We'd love to do some more work for you. But the 747 fleet's been incredible in that sense. Airline-wise, as I said, we've grown by acquisition and also organically. The airline structure within ASL, 7 different airlines today. As we said, the Irish one was there originally. We acquired Aeropostale, the famous Aeropostale, one of the oldest cargo airlines in the world. That transformed what was Air Contractors into ASL as it's known today. And then we have a Belgian airline which really looks after the long-haul flying and some of the FedEx work as well with the 737s. And then moving away from Europe, we have Quikjet here in India with a great partner, gentleman sitting next to me here. And then we have one in Australia and another one in Thailand. And not forgetting, we have one in the UK, which is not really European, but we call it whatever they wanted to call it. We call them European. So 4 airlines in Europe. If we look at the fleet and the way the fleet's grown, as you mentioned, 150 plus airplanes. I think at the last board meeting, the guys' count was 154 airplanes. The range is mainly 737 freighters, 800s mainly as we extricate the older classic 737s, 747s, and I'll talk about 747s later on. And then the 767s, a great airplane. The A300s, 600 series, also a great workhorse. The A330s, more and more. We're doing some work with Saudi Cargo, which is very exciting. And then the little ATRs. The ATRs were our backbone in developing the FedEx relationship. So a lot of hard work goes into an ATR, but it did a lot for us. So a great fleet of airplanes. Just to talk about the airline acquisitions, one great one was obviously when we bought TNT Airways in 2014. That was a big step forward for us, partnering up with FedEx with the domestic and long-haul fleets for ASL.
Thanks, Hugh. Cyrus, you started in the finance sector, and then you got into your family business on the air freight side. Since then, you were like the first job, you were at the airport looking at the cargo movement, cargo flow. Age is on your side, and you're still building cargo business. Carrying on with what you said earlier, any specific incidents that you would like to inspire the audience?
So, over a 50-year period, there are so many moments when you take a step forward. And each one of those was, for us, an inspiration. Remember that when the courier business first started, the aim was to bypass the whole channel of air cargo, which went through customs, and you got stuck either for weekends or for octroi or whatever. So we started the onboard courier system, which was horribly expensive, but it allowed a passenger to be able to carry all the courier bags as his checked-in baggage, and he walks out at the other end through the baggage hall. That became too expensive, so we innovated an airway bill for domestic and international courier services. Then there was a question of how to get through customs when we began to go into the higher value shipments. We had a problem with the customs who would not agree to give us expedited clearance. So we talked to them, and we found a way to use a note and pass system which allowed you to walk through customs but clear documents 24 hours later, which at that stage was only applicable to live animals, dead bodies, newspapers, and diplomatic bags. And we managed to get accomplished documents, that was the title, for all our courier materials. Then later on across the world, you got the de minimis, which allowed you to clear without paying customs duties below a certain value. And so these are just steps along the way where there was this constant attempt at innovation. Now, if I look back at it and I say, what more needs to be done, I think you have to look at the best examples of this type of business generically, which are Amazon at the national level, at the macro level, and organizations like Swiggy, Zomato at the city level, and now even more recently, quick commerce with custom companies like Blinkit, etc. But what are they doing? They're doing the same thing. They're accepting bookings on automated systems. They have artificial intelligence helping them to organize their deliveries. And they're using last mile individuals, we haven't got to drones yet, to do 5, 10, 15, 20-minute deliveries. So this is the way the business has been continuously evolving. I think there are lots of lessons, but I think that's enough to give you a flavor.
Thanks, Cyrus. Issa, want to bring your experience as someone who, in the forwarding side, founded Swift in 1989, went to lead Fiat, and you were into academics. Having heard some of this, what would be some of those transformative shifts that you would find or you would like to recommend in the world that we live in, particularly the global south, when we look at, and the global south is not about the latitude, it's about shared values and shared economies. So.
A couple of developments there, Reji. Two professors from two different universities got together, and they had one project in mind, and that is to convert Issa Baluch from acting as a freight forwarder and to join them on a Africa Atlantic farms. That means convert Mr. Baluch to become a farmer. And we burned a lot of midnight oil on that conversation. And I say that there is absolutely no way I can fit into a farm until the coin dropped, when one of them made it very clear to me, Issa, they can grow it, but they need you to get it to the market. Then the conversation shifted. I was fully converted. And from there on, I understood that logistics is not about transport, but it is about market access. So, for the Global South, I have a couple of easy points to make. If you cannot move goods reliably, there's no way you can compete globally. If you cannot integrate aviation with other modes of transport, you cannot scale. If you cannot build resilient supply chains, there is no way you can withstand shocks. Logistics is not about support sector. It is strategic infrastructure. Those were the lessons I finally concluded.
I like to spend the last 45 seconds to each one, your closing comments, and on occasion like this, where we bring in your years of experience and having that shared to the rest of the community. Like Ram said, you build the infrastructure for the industry, not for yourself. Share the knowledge, that's important. So any concluding remarks from each one of you? Ram, you want to go first? Yes.
Yeah, my closing remark would be for you guys, everybody, doesn't matter what kind of business that you are in, just remember the crisis, we will always be dealing with it. What has happened in the past is not going to be the last, it's going to be a continuation of everything else. There's only one thing that you can do to deal with it. Hang on to your sense of humor, make sure that you're belted onto it, and don't get lost in the gloom and doom. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Go towards the light and make sure the light's not coming towards you. So, and as long as you are in that frame of mind, it doesn't matter what kind of business that you are in, whether you're selling videos or manufacturing something else, transportation industry, that is the basic mindset that you need to be. Leverage technology, it's there. Everything is going to change very, very quickly. Adaptability is the key to success.
I would say that 74,000 years ago, you had a Toba volcanic eruption, which created a volcanic winter for thousands of years. Today, multilateralism has seen another T erupting, and multilateralism is, as you have known it all these years for your export and imports, is again in a Trumpian winter, if I can call that. Bilateral agreements are being negotiated the world over. Governments are straddling the unpredictability that has come into the geopolitical arena and your supply chains, your value chains, by giving you very clear signals. We have an EU agreement, we have an agreement with UK, we have an agreement with the US, we have other agreements, bilaterals that have been done. I don't want to take time listing them all out. Move with the time, move with the tide. Don't make it a winter that lasts all these years. You're getting a number of other signals like the IMEC initiative, dedicated freight corridors, an initiative that we launched a long time ago, which were meant to serve bilateral initiatives, which were supposed to underpin them. We did electronic testing of a dedicated freight corridor between Amsterdam and Bombay, an electronic one. See how it can work for you. We've done physical dedicated freight corridors. See if you can work on those concepts as this era of bilateralism or regionalism has come in. Final word, multimodality. You are going to get challenged by the railways, by the road infrastructure, by the inland waterways. Ships are, in any case, they're way before you. As an air cargo community, and don't split yourself into Air Express or I'm general cargo, I'm e-commerce, I'm so and so. Premierize yourselves, because that is the only mantra I think that works for you in the aviation space. Those who have been in the business and those who have taken risks in the past will be able to say better. But to me, this is how I see multimodality and your role in it going forward. These are the three things I wanted to mention. Artificial intelligence. You have no option but to stand together under the National Air Cargo Community Network. We, the NACS, we conceived of it in 2017-18. Certain airports thought that they would lose pennies by getting into that system. Certain freight forwarders thought that their pricing will get revealed if they participate in that. For God's sake, there are firewalls and there are firewalls. Work as a community, as a digital national air cargo community. India shows the IT world the leadership. You need to show the air cargo leadership. Thank you.
Thanks. I remember the digital freight corridor between Mumbai and Amsterdam, 2018, Air Cargo India at the Grand Hyatt. Hugh Flynn, your final thoughts.
I think it's very exciting looking at the future. For my sins, I chair the ESG committee for ASL, as you know, Reji. And I think we formed a forum called Cargo Vision. And Cargo Vision really aims to do two things. One, we've got a group of aviation innovators, next generation aviators. And on the other side, our customers. And what we do is we have bulletins and webinars through the year. We've been doing this since 2021. And we find it very, very useful engaging with our customers, the likes of FedEx, etc., where we don't go off track. We stay on track looking at the things that matter. And I think it's so easy with some of the things that get said around the political arena these days to kind of push away from sustainability. I think my appeal is we got to stay with it. It is exciting. You know, we're looking at things like the different types of, and I think you touched on it earlier, Ram, things like electric propulsion, hydrogen propulsion. SAF's already making some progress, but it's not the answer. We even from the presentation earlier today, the guys are talking about intermodal. We're even talking to folks about airships. An airship is a very useful transcontinental means that comes in between a ship and an airplane. It might take you, instead of 3 weeks, it takes you 3 days, but it's quite useful. Anyhow, I'm not trying to sell airships, just be positive about the future.
Thanks. Those of you who do not know the Cargo Vision initiative by ASL, and Hugh actually takes a particular initiative. I had a chance of attending some of the webinars of fascinating companies creating new solutions for the future of transport and future of freight. Please take a look at it. Subscribe to the Cargo Vision newsletter. Issa.
Thank you, Reggie. Couple of, I think I can give you 3 points. Number one, for the young people, don't live a life of being stupid for the rest of your life. Stop it. Ask a stupid question because it takes only 30 seconds and you get an answer. And it changes your life. So stop it right there. Number two, in the past, we used to order books for dummies. There were specialists that would write on any subject, whether it is computer for dummies, programming for dummies, name it, whatever it is. Today, you can get equally the same thing at a finger clip, and you get it because it is there. Call it AI for dummies, and you'll get it, and you will no longer be a dummy in that subject. My final point is I'm going to make a very generous contribution this afternoon for the young people. All the panelists, I'm contributing them to become your mentors. And I'm even going to top it up with Prakash Nair, Jacob Matthews is here, Glenn Hughes is there, Bala Subramaniam is there. There are so many of them. Young people, get a mentor that can help you in all these things. There's a wealth of experience, journeys that have been covered. You don't need to go back to travel those journeys up and down the valleys, mountains, oceans at a fingertip. My brother sitting on the left here, he can answer anything about aviation, and he's now fully, it's a contribution I've made, free of charge. Get a mentor. Those are my comments.
You know exactly why he is a teacher and professor in terms of clear messaging, clear lessons that you get, and that's actually coming from his own experience as a forwarder. Last word to Cyrus.
Trying to look ahead. I have just now a limited perspective in my new avatar as being a service provider to Amazon within India. But one thing I'd like to take the cue from, again, what Vandana Madam said. The world of transport corridors globally is changing under our feet. The origin destination patterns of international cargo are going to change dramatically. We had once a globalized supply chain with manufacturing distributed all over the world, but particularly in China. All of that is now being broken up and is moving elsewhere across the world. So if I look at, for example, the opportunities for our little airline serving purely domestic, why are we not extending ourselves into the larger supply chain regionally by flying to South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Europe and China, and to the west, to the Gulf and Europe? Already our airline, we fly to DWC, we fly to Dhaka, and we fly to Hanoi. And I expect to see this changing. So while the mainline carriers are intensifying their freighter flights into India on the mainline routes, there's also, I think, an opportunity for us to begin to see smaller airlines operating niche corridors, supplementing and complementing the belly capacity of the passenger and combination carriers. I think for the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to see, again, the landscape of air transport and aviation changing quite dramatically.
Thanks. A few hashtags from the session as multimodality, sense of humor, cargo vision, strategic access to market. Yeah, I think these are some of the key takeaways from this session. I don't know how many cargo leaders today has that sense of humor and hang on to the sense of humor, what Ram said. I think that's important, and take every opportunity, every crisis as an opportunity to be creative, and that's what we have been doing it. Just accelerate the pace of being creative, being innovative. With that note, join me to thank the beautiful panel speakers on the dais. Thank you so much.